Okay, welcome everyone. This is a meeting of the Poquoson City Council for Monday, September 23rd. I apologize for a little bit of a late start. We had a work session that ran over for just a minute or so. If we could all rise, I'll have the invocation ready to follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for the day, and thank you for this city. Thank you for the folks that we have that take care of each other. Thank you for those that even responded this evening as one of us was in need. We appreciate everything that our citizens do. We appreciate those that serve in our military and in our public service offices. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a fairly full agenda this evening with several public hearings, but we're going to start off with something more enjoyable. Not that business of the city is not enjoyable, but it's always good to recognize positive things that go on in our city. And with that, I'll ask Councilman Green and his wife, Patsy, to join him, and then I will, if Judy, you'll join me at the podium, we'll accept this for the city. Okay?
We could get Judy and Vicky.
Vicky, I guess you also. It's heavy and I can't carry it by myself.
I would just like to welcome everyone and to say how delighted I am to be here. We were just speaking of appreciation, and this is an appreciation award to our wonderful city. We started a food bank program here in February of 2012, and it is not without all the help of these wonderful people and the ones that I'm about to read to you, the names of the organizations that I'm about to share with you, that we have just had an immensely wonderful and successful food bank distribution on the fourth Tuesday of every month. The organizations, we all meet over at the municipal building, and each month we have a group, a church group or a civic community group that helps us with the distribution of food from the Peninsula Food Bank. And I would like to read off the names of the groups that have helped us, because you're going to be amazed. We have been so blessed with so many people that have volunteered and given their time on the fourth Tuesday of each month. As I said, we started in February of 2012, and since then, the Poquoson Exchange Club, the Poquoson Yacht Club, the Poquoson Kiwanis Club, Tabernacle United Methodist Church, the Poquoson City Staff, Victory Christian Center, Poquoson Lions Club, Messick Baptist Church, Beta Sigma Phi Sorority, St. Timothy's Anglican Church, Emmaus Baptist Church, the Poquoson Women's Club, the York Poquoson Social Services, and Kirkwood Presbyterian have all volunteered and joined in to help us. I think this is just a wonderful tribute to our city and to the people that live here. And as I said, it was not without these wonderful people that help us every month get it organized, their support, we could not have done it. And Buddy has a little plaque to...
Yeah, last Tuesday night, the 17th, we were invited by the food bank, Pat and I, to their annual volunteer award ceremony. And unbeknownst to us, halfway through the program, they called us up and awarded us a plaque. But it's like Pat said, this is not about Pat and Buddy Green. We just facilitated it. If the mayor, the city manager, Judy, Vicky, and Evie hadn't gotten behind it from the start, it never would have happened. And with all these volunteer organizations, that's what made it happen. And we've had two other couples that come every time, Sherry and Ed Harper and Tom and Sally Stevens. They're there every fourth Tuesday to to help us get the thing going, get it set up, and hand out the food. And this is called a Produce for Healthier Living Award. And it's in recognition of outstanding distribution of produce to those in need, and it's appropriately given to the Poquoson Community Food Distribution, because this is truly a community effort, and I'm happy that everybody was behind us. Evie and Vicki every month send out the notices to people so they don't forget about it, and it's a tremendous program. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to present this to you.
Okay. Thank you, buddy. Let me just say one thing, that all programs do need a champion. And I will tell you that the Greens are the champions of this program. The things that we do as a city pale in comparison to, as you can quite well understand, if you do certain things for volunteer work, which pretty much everybody in Poquoson does. You understand the hours that are involved. Poquoson is not unlike any other community in the world. We still have people that are hungry within our city. And this is just one great service that continues to grow, and we appreciate y'all's leadership on that. Okay, with the good things behind us, we'll start with the audience for visitors. If you're here to speak tonight during one of the public hearings, you can remain seated until we get to that public hearing. But if you would like to address council on some issue that's not on the agenda this evening, or any issue of concern, now is that time. And I'll open the podium. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the audience for visitors and ask council for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of our regular meeting of September 9th, 2013.
Second.
A motion made and seconded that we approve the minutes of the meeting for September 9th. Vicki, please.
Certainly. Councilman Air.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay. Now we'll move on into the public hearing section of the agenda. And the first public hearing, and let's see if we can combine any of these. The first public hearing is a request by the City of Poquoson to amend the city's comprehensive plan for 2008 through 2028. This is the future land use map to designate the Big Woods area, approximately 260 acres located on the western gateway to the city on both south and north sides, as a planned unit development mixed-use overlay district. Now, I'll ask for some legal advice on this one. Is there any way I can combine that with a couple of these others?
I think you can do the presentation all at one time for each of the three, but then I think you should take a separate vote on each of the
No question on the
items as they come
vote,
forward.
but one presentation
A
and
combined
one.
presentation is fine.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And with that said, who will do the presentation on this? Debbie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. This is the same presentation that staff just delivered to the Planning Commission, to City Council. And so I'm going to go through it fairly quickly, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to stop me. As indicated, we do have 3 public hearings scheduled this evening for City Council, and basically this is a brand-new ordinance that we are introducing that has been tailored for development in the Big Woods. The Planning Commission has been working on the development of this regulation for the past 6 months, and at their meeting last Monday night, they voted 7-0 to forward this language on to City Council for adoption purposes. Basically, it requires, or it encompasses the area of the city known as the Big Woods. It's outlined in this map here, and it will include, or it allows the landowners within this development area an opportunity to have an alternative development provision that's more flexible in design. It allows a blend of residential and commercial, And it would basically not change the underlying zoning district categories that this area is presently divided into. There are 3 different zoning categories, which you can tell from this map. These categories have been in existence since the mid-1990s. They were adopted as a part of an effort by our city council at that time to extend the Wood Creek Road business corridor further to the western part of the city. There were some design criteria that is much more restrictive in this area as opposed to the Wood Creek Road corridor, because it was an opportunity at that time to actually provide for a more upscale development theme for the entrance corridor to the city. The ordinance itself has some objectives, and basically it's to afford landowners an opportunity to create an assemblage of properties. It allows for the use of non-tidal wetlands in the development proposals, and it allows for an efficient use of land and quality development. In order to implement this ordinance, there are 3 requirements or 3 public hearings that are required. First, the city must go back and they must revisit the land use map as approved in the city's comprehensive plan to incorporate the provision as an overlay district in the Big Woods. The second 2 applications presented this evening for public hearing are ordinance changes. The first change is to actually approve the new language which would create the new ordinance. And that ordinance would be entitled 8.4 Planned Unit Development Mixed Use. And as I mentioned before, it's designed specifically for the Big Woods at this point. In addition to this ordinance language, there's a need to modify an existing provision that's in the zoning ordinance, and that's identified as Article 8.2. Article 8.2 is already on the books and was created in 2009 as a part of a planned unit development mixed-use concept for the waterfront areas of the city. So this mixed-use concept is not new to us. It's new to our inland areas, but it has been available for use along the waterfronts since 2009. The ordinance itself is, Article 8.2, what it ultimately does is it maps out the zoning application process to activate the use of the planned unit development. Currently, in order to activate the use of this, a developer must come in and ask for a rezoning of the property. With that, there are certain application submittal requirements that must be followed. In addition to actually holding public hearings before both the Planning Commission and City Council, the developer must provide us with what we call a master plan, which will identify the areas to be developed, what type of uses are going to be placed in that development, and the method for construction. So it's a fairly detailed application process. In addition, there also has to be an element which includes a community impact analysis, whereby studies will be provided to show that this particular development, especially with a residential component, would not negatively impact existing services on the city and/or hurt the city financially. It's a real extensive process. It would require all adjacent property owners to be notified, just as if it was a regular rezoning application that was going to be considered. The new ordinance, like I said, is broken into basically 2 different categories or 2 different areas of development design. First, you have a residential area, and then secondly, you have a commercial area. The purpose of the ordinance is to allow a blend of those 2 uses. The thought process is that if you allow for residential, then that helps to support the commercial, and the commercial, of course, helps to broaden our tax base as a whole. So it's important for us to have residential components. When we were looking at developing the uses that were permitted in each of the areas, we tried to align the uses that we presently allow in both our residential and commercial areas, so that this new development is not obtrusive to the city as a whole. In the overlay district, one varying difference is to keep in mind that it is going to allow a variety of housing types to include single-family, attached single-family such as townhomes, as well as multifamily developments. There are other uses that would be permitted that are more of an institutional style living, and such as adult daycare, daycare facilities for children, assisted living. Those type of uses would still require a conditional use permit, same as what we require now. In the commercial areas, again, we've aligned the uses that are permitted by right very closely with the type of uses that we presently allow along the Wythe Creek Road corridor. So basically, your retail uses, your professional service and personal service needs are all permitted by right. Now, your higher intense users, the ones that have a tendency to generate higher traffic volumes, they are still requiring a conditional use permit. The type of uses that you would kind of see with a conditional use permit under this development theme would be like a convenience store with fuel pumps, just to give you an example. A couple of key design elements for commercial areas that I just want to point out very quickly. The Planning Commission is recommending that large-scale developments, retail areas, or retail uses require a conditional use permit. However, in our work session this evening, City Council, and there may be some discussion on this evening, but City Council is proposing that we relax that. Currently, the Planning Commission is recommending that any type of retail use over 15,000 square foot would require a conditional use permit. The purpose of that is to avoid large-scale developments or retail uses coming in and possibly competing with our existing retail uses along the Wythe Creek Road corridor. There is also a limitation on the amount of exterior storage area that can occur, and that limitation or that number is recommended at 50%. So no exterior storage area for especially retail uses can occur outside of an enclosed building that exceeds 50% of the inside space. And then the final thing of just importance to note is the fact that high intense uses in the commercial areas are recommended to be oriented along our public streets such as City Hall Avenue and Victory Boulevard. For the most part, when the Planning Commission was looking at this, the purpose of it is to create an ordinance that offers a lot of flexibility in the design. We presently have 3 zoning districts that are very restrictive in their design criteria, and obviously they haven't worked. We've got very minimal development that's occurred in this area. So the goal here, if we're providing an alternative design development opportunity, then let's look at making things a little bit more flexible, but they're still controlled through the public hearing process at the master plan approval stage. But with that said, there were certain design criteria that the Planning Commission wanted for City Council to consider including in this new regulation. Basically, in order to activate the use of the new overlay district, the developable area must measure a minimum of 5 acres in size. Open space, which can include wetland areas, should maintain or should measure at least 20% of the total developed area. There's a 40-foot perimeter buffer requirement. And the residential component, there's flexibility, and the extent of density that's allowed is actually considered on a case-by-case basis. However, there is a recommendation that the density yield not exceed the amount that is called for in the comprehensive plan, which is 12 units per acre. So we're still recognizing what the community has said that they feel is an appropriate number for multifamily type developments. There's also a provision which is unique concerning construction sequencing. One of the issues that you want to ensure of is that we're trying to create an ordinance that provides a balance with residential and commercial, but you don't want just all residential and there be no commercial component. However, realizing that sometimes your commercial follows residential because your residential is a driving force of the type of commercial activities that will actually be attracted to this kind of development. With that said, the Planning Commission is recommending that there be a cap on the amount of residential units that can be occupied until at least the infrastructure to support commercial activity is developed and installed by the developer. And that number is 75%. So basically, we would not be allowed to issue occupancy permits for more than 75% of the residential component until all of the infrastructure supporting the commercial is in place. And finally, there's some front yard setback requirements. Even though this district is very relaxed on trying to create design provisions which controls building setback and building height and side yard setbacks, there are some design criteria for the front yards. And basically, residential districts, it recommends that either you impose a 10-foot or a 15-foot setback in the front yard, and then of course along Victory Boulevard, there's some provisions about maintaining the existing setback requirements for structures along that road to help preserve the woody character and the green space that presently exists along the street. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the flexible design provisions that are incorporated in this ordinance, which are very unique. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can read them, but the one that I really want to focus in on is the use of non-tidal wetlands in calculating your density yield. Presently, our ordinances do not allow any type of a wetland area to necessarily be used in calculating a density yield. This provision, what it would ultimately do is to allow those landowners that own property that might be lying right in the middle of a developable, upland developable areas, it gives them an opportunity to provide some value to their property by allowing the area of the wetlands to be included in creating your density yield for your residential components. So when we first started out, we decided that we would start with a 50% allowance for the non-tidal wetlands with no more than a 12-unit residential density yield. That matches the comprehensive plan. That made sense to us, and this was a fairly conservative allowance for the non-tidal wetlands. During the Planning Commission's deliberation of this provision, they ultimately decided that it would be better if we allowed more credit for the use of the non-tidal wetlands, but in exchange, a lower number of residential units that could be yielded. So when we were trying to decide what is that magic number, it was finally decided that we would do a scale, a sliding scale. So you may use between 50 and 100% of non-tidal wetlands in creating your residential yield, but in exchange for that, for every 10% that you increase the amount of credit over the 50% non-tidal wetlands, you reduce your residential yield by 1. So consequently, what you're ultimately going to end up with is that if you're going to get 100% credit for the non-tidal wetlands, then you can yield only 7 residential units per developable acre. Now, in exchange for that, the wetland areas can never be used for development purposes. They must be preserved perpetually in conservation easements. That's going through this proposal very quickly. If anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Council, you have any questions? I know we just went through it in work session, but
Just one thing, I'm just kind of trying to get my mind's eye around this, Debbie. If I was to envision what that would look like, what a Kiln Creek, something like that, would that kind of overlay be what we're talking about here with the residential? And that-
Yes, sir. And a mixture of residential. Yes, sir.
okay, any other questions of council? Debbie, regardless of where this goes tonight, I want to thank you and staff, because I know this has occupied a tremendous amount of your time over the last several months. And thank you for listening to everyone's opinions, both from the public, from the Planning Commission, and from City Council. Sometimes we don't get to say thank you enough, but I think I put it best when I said this is really, I am very encouraged by what you put forward tonight as a consideration, and I thank you for that.
Appreciate your comments. I do-
Okay, with that said, we're going to do the public hearing. We're going to do 3 public hearings and take 3 votes to make sure that we get this right, positively or negatively. So with that said, let me get back to my sheet here. The first public hearing is that request that I read earlier, which is to amend the city's comprehensive plan to recognize a planned use development mixed-use overlay district. I will tell you that as I open these public hearings, if you would like to comment on the other 2 and combine your trip, you're welcome to do that. Okay, because I think if you're talking about one of these, you're really talking about all 3. One is changing the city's comprehensive plan. 2 of them are ordinances, all dealing with the same subject. So be welcome to listen to comments on any of those 3. All right, with that, I'll open the public hearing on the request to change the future land use map to designate the Big Woods as a land unit development mixed-use overlay district. Does anybody would like to address council on this subject? Okay. And if somebody does want to address it, please just state your name and your address for the record. Thanks. Good morning.
Mayor, members of council, good evening. My name is Lamont Myers. I reside at 107 Two Turkey Run in Yorktown. I'm the Director of Development for Mid-Atlantic Commercial. I just really want to take a minute and congratulate the staff and the Planning Commission on the work they've done. It's very difficult to take a subject this complicated and balance the needs of the city and the needs of the property owners and do it in such a way that it makes sense for the development community as well. I've been doing this about 30 years on both sides of the fence, both working for municipalities and also privately, and I just say I want to congratulate you. I think you've done a great job, and I certainly encourage your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lamont. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution approving amendment to the city's adopted comprehensive plan of 2008 to 2028 future land use maps by designating the Big Woods area as a planned unit development mixed-use overlay district.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve this resolution amending the comprehensive plan. Questions or comments by council? Okay, seeing none, Vicki, please.
Certainly. Councilwoman Crawford. Aye. Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Sethall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, the second public hearing is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by adding section 8.4 mixed-use overlay district to encompass the Big Woods area, approximately 260 acres located on both the south and north sides. I will open the public hearing at this time. Okay, seeing no speakers, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by creating Article 8.4 Planned Unit Development Mixed-Use Overlay District
Motion made and seconded that we approve the ordinance change. Questions or comments by council? Vicki, please.
Certainly. Councilman Air.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and finally, an ordinance amending Article 8.2, Planned Development Districts generally, of the zoning ordinance to reference the proposed Article 8, Tax 4, Planned Use Development, Mixed Use. And I'll open the public hearing on this. Okay, seeing no speakers, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I have one change to this provision, if I may, please.
Is
It's
that
very
the
minor.
change? Is that the change to set our seat?
No,
Okay,
no, I don't think.
okay, go
This
ahead.
is under section 13, when it's outlining the application costs. We corrected it to reflect initially, for some reason, it was in the ordinance as a $1 million application cost.
Oh, well, thanks.
And, yeah.
Got us $150.
Yeah. But anyway, we corrected that, but we failed to correct where it continues on and it says 250,000. We need to take the word thousand out. And it's just it's $1,250.
You lost me. Where's that again?
It's right here. The change is at your seat, and she scratched out the 1, but she didn't get the 1,000 up here under master plan.
This is supposed to be,
The second 1,000.
It's under 8.2-13.
I got you, the second
One
1,000.
master plan.
I kept saying was.
Sub A.
Looks right to me. Okay.
Okay,
Thank
is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising Article 8.2, Planned Development Districts generally, with the striking of the second word 1,000 in 8.2-13-1A.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve this ordinance also. Questions or comments by council?
Just again to thank everybody in the planning department and planning commission and everyone who worked on this. It was a lot of work, and I appreciate it for one.
All set. Vicki, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Air.
Aye.
Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Excellent. Okay, so now we have a planned use overlay district in the city of Poquoson, so excellent.
This is really the first reading, so you'll have a second reading at the next.
Okay. All right. With that said, we'll move on in the agenda, and the next item on the agenda is, see if I can get there. A request for a conditional use permit to establish a cat sanctuary at 181 Messick Road. Who would like to
Mr.
present
Mayor,
this?
Kevin Wine from the planning department is going to present this item.
Okay. Kevin?
All right, Mayor, honorable members of council, we have received a conditional use permit from the Poquoson Animal Welfare Sanctuary Incorporated to operate, and in this sense, almost continue the operation of a cat sanctuary at 181 Messick Road. It's actually a collection of 4 parcels identified as one tax parcel on the deed. Here it is. You can see it's very uniquely shaped. Like I said, it's a collection of them. The property is zoned R2 currently to its northeast. It's surrounded by a conservation district, a lot of marshland there. On the other parts of it, it's surrounded by the R2 district, which is our most dense single-family district. Lots in this district are required to consist of 18,000 square feet or greater. We're here tonight because if in any district established under the city zoning ordinance, a use is not specifically permitted for, and an application can be made to the zoning administrator, which is the city manager, to operate such use in their specific zoning district. Paws is proposing to use the property as an animal sanctuary that will offer both long and short-term care for cats. Long-term for the cats that they cannot adopt out, short-term for the cats that they can adopt out. The organization proposes housing up to 50 felines on the property, most of those within the single-family dwelling that is on the property now. That consists of about 840 square feet. A handful of the cats will reside outdoors. The property has been used for similar operation over the last 14 or so years, just not to this scale. As I mentioned before, the site consists of 4 separate parcels, identified as in its totality as one parcel, tax parcel 32-1-44. The collection of parcels sits approximately 170 feet east of Messick Road, so it's very well set back. You cannot see the house from Messick Road. You really can't see much of the property from Messick Road. The lot holds a single-family dwelling measuring approximately 840 square feet in area that will serve as the main interior shelter for the felines. The property's perimeter is highly vegetated and well screened from adjacent properties. It's actually fenced as well, so it's really tough to see the property from neighboring properties. Here's some pictures. This is the property from Messick Road. You can see back where that white SUV is. That's where the gate and the property line sits. So it's tough to make out anything from Messick Road there. This is the actual gate property, the gate at the front property, the entrance to the property. You can see the house in the background there. This is just some of the vegetation there next to the gate. Can't see anything onto the property. This is a closer view of the house that will house most of the cats. Important to notice also, I know cats are nocturnal creatures, but don't see a lot of cats roaming around on this property. Here's a smaller outbuilding that will also house some of the cats. Here's the one cat that I saw while I was out there. As mentioned repeatedly, the property is very well screened, which I think is important for use of this nature. Most cats will be placed indoors, however, there are a handful of cats that aren't appropriate for keeping indoors, so they will keep them outdoors. Provision should be made to ensure that the cats that are kept outdoors are kept and confined to the property. I believe that's very important. The Planning Commission, at their meeting last Monday on September 16th, recommended approval of this application with staff recommended conditions to you all by a vote of 7-0. Without further ado, here are the list of conditions, so please bear with me. Condition number 1, appointments shall be limited to between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily. The use shall have 1 year from the issuance of this permit to provide the city with a plan outlining measures to be taken to ensure felines are kept within the confines of the property. Said plan shall be reviewed and approved by city staff and implemented within 2 years from the issuance of this permit. And as representatives from Paul shared with us last week, they've already begun this process themselves. They've acquired material that they will put on top of the fence that will basically be at an incline inward, I believe, to keep the cats from crawling over the fence. So they're well on their way. Number 3, all existing vegetation located on the boundary of the property must be perpetually maintained for screening purposes. Any needed replacement of this vegetation shall consist of evergreens of no less than 6 feet tall at the time of planting. That's consistent with our zoning ordinance. Over the course of 1 year from the issuance of this permit, city staff will monitor the vegetated perimeter of the property to ensure that the vegetation satisfactorily screens the use from adjacent properties during all months of the year. If the screening is found not to be satisfactory during this time, the property owner shall submit and implement a plan approved by city staff which successfully shields the use from the view of adjacent properties. The operation shall obtain all required local, state, and federal permits. Don't believe this use does, but if it does, it needs to get those. Upon the discontinuance of such use for a contiguous period of 2 years or more, the conditional use permit shall become null and void. That's been a standard condition. If at any time the operation is in violation of any local, state, or federal regulations, including the conditions set forth in this use permit, the city reserves the right to revoke the permit. 8, the use shall not house any more than 50 cats daily on average over the course of the month. We're not going to hold them, if they have 60 cats on the property in any given day, we don't care about that, as long as, it averages out over the course of 30 days to be less than 50. We're not looking forward to counting cats, but if we have to, we'll go out there. If at any time the operation is not in compliance with the conditions set forth in this use permit, it shall be subject to revocation. That concludes this presentation. I can answer any questions you may have.
Kevin, is the intention that the 50 includes the handful of cats outside?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And was there any attempt by the planning commission to define a handful? Because I know I had one cat that if she didn't want to be picked up, she was more than a handful.
Well, I think the biggest issue, we're going to have with this is, and this is something we talked about with the planning commission at length. There are some cats that get onto the property that aren't theirs, and they're not keeping. So that they're going to build the apparatus on top of the fence to keep cats out as well. But for our intents and purposes, 50 cats for the property. It doesn't matter whether they're inside or outside.
Okay.
I have a question about, it says that the former property owner was kind of doing this anyway. How many cats are there currently, do we think, other than the one you saw?
According to the representatives, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but about 20 cats currently, give or take?
A little more than that.
A little, okay.
Kittens for adoption. We're always in flux.
Okay.
Roughly. Are these cats indoors currently?
Not,
None or not?
not all of them.
How many have been indoors?
Over half are indoors. There's just a small handful that like to stay outside. There's a 2-bedroom house in addition to 6 cat apartments that Ms. Holloway had built. These apartments each measure about 6 by 9. And it varies.
And they come and go at will currently?
No, if I could elaborate.
Yeah, once you come forward so everybody can hear. Yeah.
I just don't see 50 cats in a house going well.
It's not.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Herr with Creek Road. The sanctuary was originally Mr. Paul Holloway's childhood home. And about 14 years ago, his wife got a diagnosis of cancer, and he asked her what she wanted to do. And she said, take care of the cats in Poquoson. So he obligingly gave her his childhood home, fenced it in, and over a course of time, built these apartments also. She never had this many cats before. We'd never dreamed we would have this many cats. But Poquoson has a huge feral cat population. The sanctuary is not where we're going to house cats. That's not our intention. Our intention is to spay, neuter, and return as many feral cats in the city as possible and adopt out all adoptable cats. There's going to be a handful that are not adoptable. They have medical issues. A lot of them already belonged to Mrs. Holloway or returned. One cat was actually returned after 10 years, and that's going to be our policy if we adopt a cat out, that it will be brought back to us, because chances are if it's sent to another place, it's going to be put to death. But the property is massive, considering, and cats do come over the fence, and matter of fact, Spot is one of them, and he's decided to stay. He's been fixed and neutered. Sandy Furman Jr., as you saw in the picture, is up for adoption. And to date, we have probably, since we've formed, spayed and neutered 60 or 70 cats and adopted out over 50 kittens and about a dozen adult cats. And that's quite an accomplishment since we've only been a group since November, and we only became incorporated in March. But again, I assure you, this is not a place where, to just house cats. But in order for us to help the city with its feral cat population, we need the sanctuary, because you can't just pick a cat up, run it somewhere, get it fixed, and release it the same day. You have to get appointments with affordable spay-neuters clinics. That may take time, and they do need rehab time. And these apartments, as Miss Barbara just had a vision of what the future was going to be with us, built these, and they're perfect for that, to be able to house a feral cat for several days while it rehabs.
And they're in the outbuilding?
And actually, that's a 2-room building. There's a 4-room building on the other side of the house.
Okay,
It looks like that, just shorter and bigger, 4 rooms.
all right.
And
So they're not going in the main house, largely?
the ferals, most definitely not. There are some friendlies in the house, and we have a kitten room in the house.
Okay.
And that way we can isolate kittens from adults, provide medical care, and whatever else they need.
What about supervision with people? I saw that a trip, 1 or 2 trips a day, I can't remember what it said, in your application. How often will people be?
Well, we go every morning. We feed everybody, we clean. We're there most of the day. Some days, we put in 12 to 14 to 16 hours. Every minute is not spent there. We have a lot of vet visits. We go out into the city. We try to meet people in the city who have cat problems. We take calls. We've been referred by the city, calls referred to us by the city. We trap. Trapping is an all-day thing, PETA. But we spend a lot of time there. And there's never a day goes by that somebody is not there, because those cats have to be taken care of. You can't just throw food out and take care of yourself, kids.
Right,
But
right.
Good. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Have we heard anything from neighboring property owners?
No. Can we look at that property again?
Let's see, sorry.
Which,
Right here, as you see, all of this is not fenced in. There's only a part of it where you see going down the driveway. This is my establishment here, all the way back. They do have a 6-foot fence up. When Miss Barbara lived there, she didn't have it all up at one time.
Sir,
Never had no problem.
nobody will be able to hear you at home unless
Oh,
you...
my name's Butch Conner, 175 Messick, how you doing? But I never had no problems with cats when Miss Barbara was there. We had an agreement. She ended up putting a 6-foot fence all the way down the property line, but I never had the problem that I have now with cats. Now, I'm not gonna say that they're cats, but cats draw cats. If they're feeding cats, cats is coming from somewhere. Me and my dog can't even go outside for the cats. But I mean, our city code is 10 cats to the residents. And what is a sanctuary? A sanctuary is a place where they come and they die. You don't put them out in the street or adopt them out. That's not a sanctuary. That falls under the state guidelines of something else, whether it be a foster home, caretaker. That's a Virginia thing, not a city thing. But I would like before y'all give them permission to do this, I understand they want to put a collapsible fence on the top so the cats can't jump out or in. I'd like to have at least an 8-foot privacy fence down my line so I can have some peace and quiet in my yard without being a nuisance. And that's all I have to ask.
Now, what's there currently?
A 6-foot.
6 foot?
And they crawl up under it and they jump on top of it. He's been out there and tried to fix it, and they're crawling out from where he tried to fix it.
Okay.
You know, I commend their effort for what they're doing, but while they're trying to solve one problem, they're creating another one. For me, you know, like I said, it's a nuisance when you can't go out your own front door, your back door. I got tags on for my dog and my cat, well, my daughter's cat, but I don't see no collars or tags saying, they say they get rabies. I believe them. But I have to bring a rabies certificate down here to City Hall to get my tag for my dog, to keep on her at all times. I don't see nothing over there like that. Who's gonna be the oversight to see that this thing is done in a proper, professional way?
Okay.
I mean, that's all I'm asking for.
Good points. Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Okay. With that said, that's an interesting point. I guess as far as monitoring a conditional use permit, that would fall under the planning staff.
Yes.
So you said you weren't an expert at counting cats, but.
Not, we can find means, I'm sure. We can find means.
All right. Now, did I hear you, I heard you basically, and I think you addressed the fence and you addressed and I understand exactly what you're saying. You're addressing that you're gonna raise the fence a little bit and you're gonna put an offset so they can't climb out. And where does that fall within the use of this, or how soon should that be in place?
A plan within 1 year, implemented within 2.
Okay.
Who does ensure that they have the shots?
Well, I guess we have some questions. Can you come back up if you don't mind? Trying to iron this out here, because I'll be quite honest with you. If we don't have a facility somewhere, we have a problem everywhere, okay? But we need to make sure the facility is correct.
Absolutely.
So-
Every single cat that we have has been, if you look, ear tipped.
Okay.
If you look at that left ear and it's been tipped, that means the cat has been fixed, tested for feline AIDS and leukemia, and given a rabies shot. Now, granted, not every single cat that we have is going to get ear tipped. If it's adoptable, a lot of people do not want their cat, half of its ear gone. We do have paperwork for every single cat. Kittens can't be done until they're older. But every single cat on that property has been tested for feline AIDS and leukemia and received a rabies shot and has been fixed.
So you have basically you have documentation that
Yes,
you can
sir.
provide to city staff
Absolutely.
when they need to see it, or on an auditable basis.
Sure.
That says, all right, here's all the cats that are here, they're licensed to be here, and here are their records.
Sure. I mean, if we just got it in, of course, you're going to have to give us a few
What's
days
your-
to get it done, but
What's your capability of as an organization? I know you're new.
Mm-hmm.
I know y'all are a new organization. What is your capability of doing the fence line faster than a year?
we have very little money. One of our board members is a machinist. He's ordered the materials a little at a time because he's paying for it out of his own pocket. It's going to take us a little while. The plan is there. We have the plan. That's not the problem. It's having somebody to help Mr. Warbeck with it and finances.
Okay.
We can definitely do it, I think, within a year. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Is there, are you currently putting collars on the ones that are adoptable that are not ear tipped? Is that doable? Tags?
We only, collars are very dangerous for cats, especially with the type of fence. If they were to go over the fence and they get the collar caught on it, then they're going to hang themselves. Breakaway collars is an option, but we would be spending a mint in breakaway collars. I think one thing he doesn't understand, Messick Road is full of cats. Just 2 doors up from him is a huge colony of cats. Just because there are cats on his property doesn't make them sanctuary cats. We have only had 1 cat come back orange, which he was painting them when he trapped them. So he's only really trapped 1 of our cats. And I can guarantee you that cat's not going to get trapped again. They're very smart. Once they're trapped once, they're not going to get trapped again. Just because and we're not attracting per se cats. There's only 1 cat that has come across the fence to get to us. And that's been since November.
And ask a question, how many of the cats, and I should know, but I don't, how many of the cats that y'all adopt out are outdoor cats now?
Or how many did we adopt
No,
out?
how many
The
on
ones
site?
that you adopt out, how many of those are currently outdoor cats?
Probably a half a dozen.
So the half a dozen cats that live outdoors are adoptable if anybody wants to adopt them?
Sure. And we do, and we have adoption sessions all the time. We have Facebook. I mean, I think we've adopted out a huge amount of cats considering,
Mostly kittens.
mostly kittens, but at least probably a dozen cats, older cats, not necessarily indoor, outdoor cats. I think that's a pretty good track record for
Okay.
just getting started.
Any other questions?
But just generally on how this works, and I guess I'll just admit this is public, I've never in my life had a cat. I understand how dogs work, with dog tags and shots and that, but is there the same laws or similar rules for cats about shots and displaying tags and
I don't believe so.
those kinds of things?
Our code does.
I don't think so.
I think our code does require cats to be vaccinated. Under animals.
But not on their person, like a dog does.
They do not have to wear the tags, to my knowledge.
How much of the property is actually fenced? Do you know?
How much is property
How
tax?
much of the property is actually fenced right now?
I'm probably about 2/3 of it. I think the reason they didn't take the fence line further back is because the ground is just too marshy.
It's wetlands.
Yeah.
And the fence is largely irrelevant because it's a small fence that they can go over currently, correct? Is it easy for them to go over right now?
Some never even try. It just depends on the cat.
6 feet tall,
It's
right?
6
feet
foot,
tall.
it's a 6-foot fence. And there is a product we could purchase right out and not have to wait for Mr. Rohrbach to manufacture it. But it's about $300 for 100 feet. And that would cost us a huge amount of money.
Like I said, I don't care if they get 50 cats over there, as long as they give them all they need. You know, if y'all want to give them permission to keep 50, that's fine. Keep them over there.
Again,
We're
to
gonna-
my
we're-
knowledge, only one.
It's okay. I understand both concerns. okay?
Absolutely.
I understand both sides, and look, we need to make sure that we don't set up an area to be worse than it is, but I understand what the current use was, okay? And I understand that you're a new organization, and that my opinion is, my gut feel is that you're gonna make good on your
Absolutely.
on your statements. And I can tell you from the city standpoint, as we've discussed before, we have pockets of animals that need aid. And you've done everything that I've asked from the get-go on this, which was become a legal organization. You've done that. So I feel comfortable with your track record coming up to this. And I'm just trying to figure out if we have the right timeline set on the fencing and how we can help get that done, but we'll take a look.
How many feet are you looking at fencing? I mean, there's money out there, and I don't know whether the city has some too, that if this is a city, oh, it's a private organization though, isn't it? That would be problematic. But there are organizations that I think
The problem
might help.
is, we are not a 501c3 at this time.
Uh-huh.
We can't even give you a timeline for that because that's totally up to the IRS.
Right. Have you submitted your paperwork?
We're in the process. We have had 2 people say they were doing it. We waited for them, and then they had not even started.
Okay.
We've taken it into our own hands now, so hopefully that won't be long. But a friend of ours who's starting a spay-neuter clinic, which will be a great, tremendous help to us, took her 13 months to get a response from the IRS.
I'm worried about getting it in, getting the paperwork in. Maybe that could be part of the, get the paperwork in, because they can't respond until you've at least.
Right, and we've raised the money
Okay.
to pay for the
Okay.
IRS for that because they just, it's $850 for that alone.
Right.
And
And
Gene,
any help we could get would be appreciated.
excuse me.
I'm
Gene,
sorry.
I've already heard one thing that was favorable in that what Kevin said was that it had a year to get a plan and 2 years to do the fencing.
Yeah.
And the young lady says they already have a plan and could do the fence within a year.
Yeah.
And so that cut that timeline in half.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to make a hardship in the area.
Licenses only applies to dogs. You do not have to have a license for a cat.
Okay. All right.
And having that fence done within the year really requires be able to raise the funding. 2 years would be pretty certain. A year might be tight.
A year may be tight, but if you were to say to us, this is the only way you're going to get this, then I'm sure that all board members will work twice as hard to get that done. It's that important, not just to us, it's important to this city. Because individually, we have all done the best we can. I personally my husband and I have spayed about 80 cats before I met anybody else.
Okay.
That's all I'm
I
saying.
don't want to make this something that it's not. I think I'm satisfied that if we can make those changes and drive this fence earlier and then we will monitor how this progresses in the neighborhood. Okay? Then I think we can give this a run. But I understand what the adjacent landowner is saying, and I respect his property rights as well. So I certainly agree with that. So let's, if in a motion, if anybody's willing to make one, if they could change that wording, and then we'll see what we can do to facilitate some other volunteer help maybe and head them their direction. Okay.
Is the public hearing closed?
I don't think it was a public hearing.
Not officially.
I don't think you ought to at least open it.
Was there one? Yeah, I guess it was. Okay, sorry. That was a public hearing. Would anybody else like to address the council on that subject?
Modified public hearing, I like that.
Oh, well, it's been a long night tonight. Okay, with that said, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution approving a conditional use permit for the establishment and operation of a pet sanctuary at 181 Messick Road, Poquoson tax map parcel number 32-01-00-0044, with the following change to condition number 2. The use shall have 6 months from the issuance of this permit to provide the city with a plan, which I understand they've already got, and within 1 year, have it implemented.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
A motion made and seconded that we approve the conditional use permit with those changes inserted. Further questions or comments of council? Okay, seeing none, Vicki, please.
Councilman Seth Hall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Ayer,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Crawford,
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion passed by a vote of 5-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay. All right, with that said, the next item under public hearings this evening is a request by Jesse Dunlap to establish and operate a landscaping business at 93 Firth Lane. Is there a presentation on this?
Yes.
Kevin, you look like you're ready to go.
We're ready to go.
Proceed.
Right. Over the past year or so, a landscaping business has been in operation at 93 Firth Lane. We've been closely monitoring it and recently sent the owner a notice that either cease operations or get a conditional use permit, petition Planning Commission and City Council for a conditional use permit. The property consists of approximately 3.2 acres. It's well set back from With Creek Road and is identified as 93 Firth Lane. The property is zoned R1 and is surrounded mainly by R1 single-family residential properties. R1 is our moderate density. It's still a low-density single-family district. The property to its south has just recently been rezoned to R3 multifamily. and it's going to be immediately behind the Cool Wave car wash that is currently under construction, and the city has received a proposal for a 24-unit townhome development.
Can you clarify, that's the brown area?
Yes, that's the brown area.
That has been rezoned?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's been recently rezoned. We're here for the same reason for the last conditional use permit. If a use is not specifically permitted within that district, the property owner can petition city council for a conditional use permit with the planning commission's recommendation to establish an operation of that nature within that district. The applicant is proposing to use the property as a larger scale landscaping business. The property consists of a single-family dwelling currently, which is occupied by the property owner and his family. The applicant will continue to utilize the property as living quarters and proposes operating the landscape business as a secondary use. As part of said business, the property owner will store some equipment and materials used to support that business on the property. Examples include the storage of dirt on the property and landscaping pavers, items of that nature, and equipment. The site consists of one parcel located on Firth Lane, identified as tax parcel number 19-1-12. The perimeter of the property is bounded by vegetation on all sides. Some of that's thicker in certain areas than others. However, for the most part, aside from property to the northwest 7-acre parcel, it's fairly well screened, much more during the summer months than the winter months. The lot currently holds a single-family dwelling measuring approximately, it's about 5,000 square feet. And that serves as the primary residence for the business owner and his family. Most of the property is surrounded by a single-family district, and that's why we're concerned about the impacts this could have to those neighbors. This is from properties on Islander Way. You can see that, yeah, it's tough to see in there, but we're in the summer months right now. But this is one of the thinner areas of vegetation. You can see that there's an orange piece of equipment there. You can also see some of those landscape pavers to your right. This dirt is stored on the property now. The business owner, the property owner, indicated during the Planning Commission meeting last week that that's actually for personal use. Apparently, he acquired the property and it was in not the best shape, and he's been slowly working to improve its condition. Here's some debris and various equipment used to serve the business stored on the property here. That's a close-up. Here's a close-up of the pallets of pavers stored in the backyard. A close-up of it. DSD is the name of the company. Here's a more panoramic view of the backyard there.
And where is this angle? Where are you?
This is from Islander Way, from properties off of Islander Way.
Farm?
I'm sorry?
Farm area?
No, this is adjacent to Mr. Ayers' house, actually.
Okay.
This is from the front yard. This is from Firth Lane. You can see here you have 6 vehicles parked on the property. These are employees who come every morning and park on the property. You can also see a commercial trash receptacle on the property and a larger truck that's used to service the business. Here's different angles, same view. And close up, you can see the trash receptacle there. In summary, for the most part, the property is well screened during the spring and summer months. There are some gaps in that vegetation. We'd like to see that filled with mature vegetation. A lot of the screening from With Creek Road is currently is located on that recently rezoned multifamily property. It's completely forested now. Of course, the plans to put buildings up there, but a lot of that forestation is going to be removed during that process. So visibility may become a little easier from With Creek Road. Storage and equipment operations can potentially become quite disruptive, especially within a single-family district. So that's why we want to put some conditions on this to limit what can be done on the property. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this application. However, they did modify 2 of the conditions. And I will get to those in a second. But I identified them as kind of a line in, line out on the condition. One of those is about the commercial trash receptacle. Staff still recommends that that not be allowed. And if it is allowed, that at least that the hours it is serviced are regulated in some fashion. Because I know personally I would not want a trash receptacle being emptied at midnight. All right, without further ado, our recommended conditions, that hours of operation be limited to 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. We picked that 7 a.m. hour because figured most people were up and moving by that time at least. If you feel that is too restrictive or not restrictive enough, certainly open to that. 2, the hours of operation shall be limited from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. The business shall have 1 year from the date of the issuance of this permit to create a staff-recommended fenced area. The Planning Commission recommended to you that this be changed to a screened area, allowing them to use dense vegetation to screen any materials that they have. So I'll continue with that. A screened area, screened on all sides to completely screen the storage of materials and equipment that support the business operation. The enclosed area shall be submitted to the city staff for approval and shall be no larger in area than 50% of the floor area of the residential structure located on the property, which is similar to how accessory structures are regulated in single-family districts. This enclosure shall be located no closer than 50 feet from any property line and must be located in the rear or side yard of the property. If by the end of this 1-year period, a screened enclosure is not created for this purpose, this permit may be revoked. 4, vehicles used to support the operation shall be screened from public and adjacent property view and shall be kept only in accordance with the provisions of Article 5, Section 510 of the city's zoning ordinance, basically limiting the property owner from keeping vehicles that are, I believe, over 2 tons, something in that. Larger vehicles have to be screened. All existing vegetation located on the property on the boundary of the property, must be perpetually maintained for screening purposes. Any needed replacement of this vegetation shall consist of evergreen plants measuring no less than 6 feet tall at the time of planting. This was supposed to be stricken out. I apologize that it's not, but this is one of the conditions that the Planning Commission modified, essentially taking out this first sentence and allowing them to keep a commercial trash receptacle. So I will read to you the part that the Planning Commission recommended to you. Condition 6, no stockpiling of landscaping waste or material debris shall be permitted. 7, the operation shall obtain all required local, state, and federal permits. This would include a stockpiling permit if they wish to stockpile anything on that property. Upon the discontinuance of the use for a contiguous period of 2 years or more, the conditional use permit shall become null and void. If at any time the operation is in violation of any local, state, federal regulations, including the conditions set forth in this use permit, the city reserves the right to revoke the permit. The use may be subject to renewal after a 3-year period. City Council may opt to renew this permit through your indefinite inaction, provided the business is operating in good standing and operating within all the above outlined conditions. And that is all. I do not believe the applicant is here tonight, so I can answer any questions you have to the best of my ability.
I do have some, Kevin.
Okay.
When I read this, I saw that it applied, it met none of the conditions for residential business. And when I look at the section that talks about the relationship to the comprehensive plan and the staff findings, and I'll read just part of this. It says, use of this nature anywhere in the city does not come without several challenges, primarily outdoor storage of materials and equipment, meaning the use of this nature may not be the most aesthetically pleasing to adjacent landowners, particularly within single-family residential districts. Additionally, the number of vehicular trips created by employees gathering at the residence could become an issue. For instance, the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Report, 3rd edition, estimates that on average, a single-family residence will generate 10 vehicular trips on an average weekday. If this business is employing 6 individuals, at least 12 additional vehicle trips will be made daily, more than doubling that of a typical single-family residence. The location of this particular property is well set back from the public right-of-way, as it sits 315 feet to the east of With Creek Road. Additionally, the house on the property is set back 400 feet plus from its private means of ingress-egress on First Lane. As mentioned above, the boundary of the large parcel is lined with natural mature vegetation. However, there are some thin areas that allow activities on the property to be easily seen from adjacent residential parcels. Without proper controls, use of this nature in a residential district could become highly impactful and disruptive to the quality of life and the surrounding citizens. If the Planning Commission recommends approval of the request to the City Council, staff recommends that the approval be subject to the following conditions. Now, among those conditions are 13 hours a day for the weekdays,
Yes.
11 hours a day for Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wouldn't want that next door to me. Okay, now, I commend the gentleman for wanting to have a business, but we just approved a business of a similar nature across the street in a business district. Okay, this is in the middle of a residential district, and we just approved a 24-unit complex to be built there. Okay, now, what's this going to do to the condition, like living conditions for the people in those new 24 residences? Okay. It's going to be multi-story, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this property would be easily visible from the second stories. And with dump trucks being loaded 13 hours a day, 11 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday, and there's going to be kids in that 24 apartment complex, and dump trucks running in and out all day Saturday and Sunday, wouldn't be pleasant for me to live next door
Yeah.
to.
Those are very valid concerns.
Let me say that without the applicant here to tell us what his thought process is, I think that we ought to basically postpone this and postpone the public hearing. And I don't know if that creates any issues or not.
About advertising, it might.
Is it?
I think since you're since you're publicly saying that it's going to be postponed and you'll vote to do that,
Okay.
then no additional advertising is necessary.
Because I'm like you, and I really wanted the applicant here to talk a lot about this, because some of my fundamental things that I'm concerned about is, just like you talked about, the R1 nature, the depth of the lot, the hours of operation. I'm thinking that there's some other controls we didn't even talk about in the controls or the application. Is he going to do any retail sales from here? If we're giving him a conditional use permit to operate a business, does that include retail sales? Can somebody start selling landscape stuff from there and the like? He's got stone stored there. What's his thought process? If it's because it's residential, it really doesn't talk about a storage yard. I know we have a storage yard, basically ordinance now that allows you to operate a storage yard. This sounds like he wants to operate, and I kind of go along with the things. I would say that operations of the business, storage on the site is one thing that we need to address. Operation as a retail thing is one thing I'd like to address. Noise-making activities on the site is something I would like to control to smaller hours.
Well,
Okay, if we're gonna, because this doesn't sound like your standard home business.
no, and I'd like to expand my comments just a little bit further in that the 13 hours a day for the weekdays and 11 hours a day for the weekends, okay, seems quite a bit in a residential area.
Right.
And the other, and one of the primary things is we just approved a 24 apartment complex there.
Well, I understand that.
And suppose the builder of that changes their mind for that complex now, because this is not gonna be a good condition with dump trucks and loaders running 13 hours a day and 11 hours a day on weekends. There's a reason we have zoning ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a point if I could. I think
Go ahead.
we're out of order to be discussing this with no motion and no public hearing. I agree with some of what you're saying, but I don't think we ought to be discussing it if we're going to postpone it.
Can I ask a question?
I guess all I'm asking is that when the applicant comes, they be prepared to discuss those attributes.
I have no qualms with but commenting on it and saying how you feel about
Okay.
it goes beyond Robert's Rules of Order, which we're supposed to follow.
Can I ask a question of Kevin?
Yes, go ahead.
The northern, whatever's bound, this property above it to the northwest, what is that currently?
That is a vacant parcel. I believe it's bank-owned.
Okay.
It consists of 7 acres. I'm not sure how much of that is uplands and how much of it is non-tidal wetlands, but it's vacant currently.
And it looks.
And
is
it's
it
accessible
wooded?
off of Wainwright, I believe.
Okay, I wasn't sure how wooded it, and immediately to the southeast, this parcel here, what's this?
Let's see, to the southeast, let me bring up
You
that
see,
map.
at the end of Firth Lane, the very end of Firth
At
Lane to the
the
left.
end of Firth Lane, there are 2 single-family dwellings that get access off the tip of Firth Lane there.
So at the big curve, where it curves back around?
Where it curves back around, yes, where it curls up at the end.
Okay,
of
what
Firth
about
Lane.
before that? The one immediately
Before
next
that
to it right
is
here.
the, south of that is becoming the multifamily parcel.
This, I thought this was multifamily parcel. What's this big one right next to it?
That big one is a property, a single-family residence accessible off of Islander Way.
But non-developed, or there is a family?
There is a
residential?
single-family house there.
Okay.
Heavily forested towards the rear of it.
Okay.
But at the front portion closer to Islander Way, there's a single-family house.
Okay.
And Buddy, you're correct, and I didn't intend those as comments, they were questions of Kevin's presentation, okay, that weren't answered to me.
You don't have to answer to me, but I'm just saying we're out of order.
With that said, can I get a motion to postpone then?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we postpone this until our next meeting, which will be the second meeting in October, I take.
Yes. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded that we postpone this particular public hearing and process until a date when the applicant can also come. All right. Vicki, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Air. Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 5-0 with 1 abstention.
All right. Under new business this evening is a resolution authorizing the issuance by the Economic Development Authority of a revenue bond for Christopher Newport University Educational Foundation, Christopher Newport University Real Estate Foundation, and Christopher Newport University.
Teresa.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the city and the EDA had an opportunity to assist the CNU Education Foundation and the CNU Real Estate Foundation on a plan to refinance a bond they had in 2001 issued through the New Kent County Economic Development Authority. Each calendar year, localities in their subunits can issue $10 million worth of tax-exempt bank-qualified debt. We issued $1.8 million in June with the EDA line of credit refinancing. So we had $8.2 million that was available for use. In order to do this, though, the city does have to, City Council does have to authorize the issuance of the revenue bond as well as the EDA. They did hold a public hearing on September 10th and did pass the resolution to issue the debt. It is not a debt of the city or the EDA. All bond costs will be paid through the bonds, so there's no cost to the city, and the EDA gets an administrative fee for administering this bond. Doug Hornsby is here to answer any questions about the project, and I'm happy to answer any question about the actual financing.
I think we'd love to hear about the project that Since he did have to sit here and listen to us talk about cats. So, we should at least listen to what Christopher Newport University has in mind.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, and my esteemed colleague, the gentleman from Poquoson, member of the bar. I'm Doug Hornsby. I run the Real Estate and the Education Foundation of Christopher Newport University. We build things for the university. We acquire properties for the university. Our job is to make money, to develop things, and to meet the educational mission of the university. These particular bonds were issued back in 2001, actually 2001, 2002. They were used for acquisition, development, and construction of student housing, which we call CNU Apartments. It's actually addressed as 39 Sweetbriar, which, if you know the Warwick Restaurant, is kind of down the street from that. These particular bonds, their initial outstanding principal in 2001 have been substantially paid down. At the time of the closing, those loan documents provided for a bullet maturity right now, so this refinance was anticipated. We're not able to go back to New Kent County because they're out of authority, and so we have to search around, and we came to our good friends at Poquoson. We actually, because there's two bonds, we had to go to Richmond County in Warsaw. And so I'm going to a lot of authorities and having fun. So what these bonds do is continue the university's ability through the Real Estate Foundation to borrow money at not just regular commercial rates, but tax-exempt rates. And of course, because they're bank qualified, I think as this the council knows, they're just a little bit more affordable. So we have a deal with the good folks at Bank of America to extend the financing on this for a period of time. We've selected a fixed rate, which is extremely attractive. And so we hope to be able to pass those savings on. So of course, because of the eccentricities of the federal tax law, we have to come to local governmental authority. You're the ones that issue the bonds, and as you're well familiar, and as council advised, there's no obligations whatsoever. They're just the law requires that. So these structures have been finished since 2001. They're worth far in excess of what this remaining balance is. And if you haven't been to Christopher Newport University recently, if you've been within the last month or so, it's changed, and we do that on a weekly basis. I'm
seems like
teasing, of course, but it's, the CNU story is easy to tell. We have the largest class we've had. It's about 1,250. The SATs and the GPAs are higher than ever. They will be the highest grade point average in SATs the university's ever had until next year, when the class will probably get better. But the university is obviously, you know, with the Center for the Performing Arts and all that we have, it's a fantastic addition to the community and also to the good people of Poquoson also. That's what we do, and we appreciate y'all's consideration to allow us to continue these tax-exempt bonds for student housing.
Thank you for speaking on their behalf.
Yes, sir. Any questions y'all have? We don't have any cats and we don't have any landscaping.
Thank you for that. I had a question. You said that there's no obligation. This means this is no risk to us.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. You issue the bonds because you're the only ones that can.
Mm-hmm.
The bank purchases the bonds, and the agreement that you have to sign through the authority provides that there's no obligation whatsoever. And what you do get is an administrative fee of 1/8 to 1% of the outstanding principal balance on June 30th of every year. So it's the New Kent County's loss and your gain.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say that this is exactly what the Newport News EDA is doing for New Horizons, to build their new building for the autistic and the handicapped children.
As I recall, we used our bond authority for YMCA in York County as well, so I'm all about improving the peninsula region. So, and Christopher Newport is obviously a big improvement to the peninsula region, so I'm all for it. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance by the Economic Development Authority of the City of Poquoson, Virginia, of a revenue bond for Christopher Newport University Educational Foundation, Christopher Newport University Real Estate Foundation, and Christopher Newport University.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve this resolution. Questions or comments of council? Seeing none, Vicki, please.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman. Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you very much. And the other item under new business is one we probably shouldn't have a lot of discussion about. This is a resolution canceling the first meeting of the month of October 2013.
Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution canceling the first meeting of the month of October 2013.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we cancel that meeting. Vicky, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Air.
Aye.
Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
And comments of the city manager, and take comments of the assistant city manager this evening.
I have a
Thank you
couple.
for filling in.
I want to report that the convenience site that will be delayed the second time in October because of the Seafood Festival, and will be held instead on October the 26th. We've received public notice of the new flood maps and the flood insurance study. Notification of that was in the September and the 19th Daily Press, and will be shown again on September 26th. The 60-day appeal period for the public to come in and appeal the maps will begin on September the 27th and will end on November the 26th. Residents who believe their property will be adversely affected by the new maps can call Ken Somerset at 868-3024, and he will tell you what the procedure is to appeal those. The appeals must be filed by the city, so Ken is a big help on guiding you through that process. The bid you received at a couple meetings ago from Bradford Drummond for the lease purchase of the property in the Big Woods for the establishment and operation of the laser tag park has been withdrawn, and because they were exploring other options. The Seafood Festival Workboat Race will be held on Sunday, September the 29th at Messick Point, beginning at 1 o'clock. And they have a kickoff party on Saturday evening at the point, starting at 6 p.m. On the 18th, September the 18th, I believe it was Wednesday, staff had a moment of silence and remembrance out in front of the City Hall here at the monument, in front of the flags, in remembrance and also Thanksgiving for how well off we were from Hurricane Isabel, and how far we've come in our knowledge and preparation for future storms. And there was probably 15, 20 people with us there, and it was a very emotional time for us to have to relive our thoughts of that storm. The city won first place award at the Peninsula Chamber of Commerce Business Safari Exposition, which was held on September the 19th at the Virginia Living Museum for their exhibit, Creativity. We have special thanks to our Poquoson Economic Development and Community and Recreation Department, the Poquoson Pharmacy, the Poquoson Business Alliance, the Angela Costello Group, the Jet Ski Fishing and Adventures, and the Chesapeake Bay Adventures. And this is the award that they received from the Chamber. And this is a sample of what was on display at our display at the Chamber. So to get first place amongst everyone there was a great honor.
Very good. Second year in a row.
Yeah.
Great.
That's all I have.
Great job by the economic development staff in representing Poquoson at that event. All right, comments of City Council. Bud, let's start with you.
Yes, first, I'd also like to add my thanks and appreciation to Debbie and the city staff for the work they did on the overlay district. I think, like everyone else, think that they really did an outstanding job and did a lot of work for the city. And to Buddy and Pat, I would like to thank them because they deeply underplayed their efforts in the food bank program, and we all know the hours and time that they spend there, and Buddy, you and Pat severely understated the work that you do. We thank you.
Tracy.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Yes, from the local chapter of Daughters of American Revolution, they asked me to express thanks to you for the proclamation for declaring Constitution Day and for the city for putting it on the website as, for Constitution Week.
Okay.
So that was
Excellent, excellent, and easily done. So always a good thing to do and a good group to represent. Buddy?
Just two things, Mr. Mayor, to remind the citizens of the food drive for our local food pantry that starts next Monday, the 30th, and it'll be, the deuce and a half will be at the high school from 9 to 2. Tuesday, it'll be at the middle school. Wednesday, it'll be at the elementary. Thursday at the primary, and then Friday, it'll finish up at the Farm Fresh from 8 to 1:30. And encourage everybody to donate. The food pantry could use the help. And also remind everybody of the food drive tomorrow, the food bank drive, at the old City Hall from 10 to 1. We've changed the time. So it's 10 to 1. And we have a mixed mash of people volunteering. Just about one person from every one of those places that Pat mentioned is going to help out. So.
Okay. That's it. Councilman Harris?
Just reiterate what everyone said, and if you haven't had a chance to visit the cat house in Poquoson, you probably want to do that. It's what those ladies have done, honestly, is unbelievable. And once again, Deborah and staff, just an unbelievable job what you guys do. And of all the things we do to advertise Poquoson as open for business, that right there speaks volumes. If I was a developer, I would be looking awfully hard right now at Poquoson. That business is open. And it's just an unbelievable amount of effort and time goes into that, I know. And I think it'll certainly pay dividends for us, so great job.
Thank you for those comments, and I don't have anything further. I will ask that we call that a cat sanctuary instead of cat house. If we could, and other than that, I'll defer any comments, and I appreciate council's time this evening. I think we have a closed session on the agenda this evening, and that closed session is pursuant to section 2.23711A3 of the Code of Virginia to discuss and consider disposition of publicly held property, and that being a power proposal. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded that we go to closed session. Vicky, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Ayer.
Aye.
Councilman Seth Hall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Hey, and I apologize, council. I've got some stuff here to sign that it was laying on the bottom. So if we could sign these couple special